Hello everybody, thanks for coming. I'm Sandra McAleer and I'm with the Housing Department and I'm Project Manager for this scheme. So I'm just going to give a bit of context about the project, go through some of the specifics. It'll kind of lead you into where we are before I hand you over to my colleague, Ronan Fallon, who'll present on the kind of planning aspect. And then we will meet Buckles McAvoy, who'll present on the design. So just this is going to give background to the project so far. So first of all, just to identify, right now my page is not. Okay, so just a bit of background there. I'm just going to go through the site, give some context, the timeline to date, the development framework plan, the cost rental, a bit about allocations, the design team, design and planning, delivery strategy, funding strategy, next steps, and a short indicative project timeline. So just first of all, to outline the site, so I have a red line boundary here shown in the site. So it's 10 acres and the site extends from the boundary wall of Goldenbridge Cemetery right out, fronting onto Emmett Road. So that's the 10 acre. And just to highlight here, the yellow boundary I have here is the site identified as 1B. Some people may be familiar. It's located between Thornton Heights and Richmond Barracks. It's a development that will be developed by Circle Housing along with Alone and the HSC. It's a pilot project of housing with supports for the elderly. So they're due to commence on site in September. And those 52 units will be part of the overall 30% social. Okay, so again, this is just another outline, just to explain the front of the site where we have 4 structures here and to show that where the mixed use development will be on the proposed development. So it's not just where the previous blocks of St. Michael's were, it's right extending out. So we have the Celtic Pigeon Club, which we successfully CPO'd last year and demolished in November. We have the HSC building, which DCC are soon to acquire. Then the community centre is owned by Dublin City Council. So there's a Part 8 planning application gone in for demolition. And when we receive approval for that, we will demolish both of those and the remains of the halting site. So we'll have a clear site there onto the front. The Community Sports Centre is owned by the City of Dublin Educational Training Board, but it's managed by DCC. So it's used by the college during the day and the community in the evenings and at the weekends. So that building is the only building to be retained on the site, and that will be incorporated into the overall development. Good. I'm not sure what's happening here. So just give you a timeline to date. So I'm just going back to 2017 and bring you up to the current 2021. So in 2017, there was a feasibility study carried out for 3 of our large land banks under the Housing Land Initiative. And that was to put forward the development potential of the sites and the delivery strategy. And the tenure mix proposed at that stage was for 50% private, 30% social, and 20% affordable purchase. And these 3 reports went before Council, and in January 2017, these were adopted. In 2018, we were then asked to review St. Michael's in line with the amended ministerial guidelines for apartment standards and heights, and to look at it from a cost rental perspective. And it was decided then and announced in July in Richmond Barracks in 2018 that this would be a location for a pilot cost rental scheme in Dublin City. And at that stage then, the next step was for Dublin City Council to begin the project. So we came up with a development framework plan. We produced it with a multidisciplinary team of architects and cost consultants. That then became a brief for the procurement of an architect-led integrated design team. The design team now are currently preparing a planning application to lodge to the board later this year. So the Development Framework Plan 2019, it's quite a comprehensive document, and it involved considerable amount of stakeholder engagement with all of the DCC internal departments. So it was getting together with each of those and their specific requirements and specifications for the site, what needed to be considered, I suppose the do's and don'ts. So it was everything from public lighting to conservation to roads. And as I said, then this document was a compilation of information that would go to any future design team to develop up the site. So the purpose was a proof of concept. So looking at the optimal model development of the site. So being the quantity of residential, your quantity of commercial, retail, community, public open space and public realm. And balancing 3 factors, because it was also looking at the viability of cost rental. So balancing density with quality and affordability. And this document, the proposed site potential at this time in 2019, what this study, high-level study came up with, that the site could take 484 residential units. So this will be the purple blocks outlined here and smart section here. 70% cost rental and 30% social. Also your community facilities outlined here, the front, your library, and then your commercial large supermarket at the front, your creche here, and your small retail. So this is what the proposal at the time. And as I said, this became the brief that went out to procure the design team. And as I said, it was looking at cost rental and the viability of it. So what is cost rental? Cost rental is where the rents charged cover the cost of delivering, financing, and managing the homes. So it's a combination of the build costs, that's the total development cost for the units, along with the management maintenance fees for those units, financing costs, and if there's a land purchase involved, your site provision needs to be included. But on Emmet Road, it does not include the cost of land purchase because it's DCC owned land, and there's no developer's profit because it's direct delivery. So the rents are in line with consumer inflation, and unlike the private rental market, they're not market driven. So it's a new form of renting that looks to create a new model of secure quality housing that remains sustainably affordable over time. So what makes cost rental more affordable? So there's key 4 elements. The first, the public owned site. So we know we own the site, and then designing with long-term maintenance in mind. So that's choosing quality, robust materials, the like of bricks, facade that require little or no maintenance going forward. So minimise the management maintenance fees and ultimately benefit the tenant to reduce their monthly rent repayments. State contribution or state subvention. There is one fund available currently. It's the SSF Service Site Fund, and it's enabling infrastructure to, I suppose, prepare your development, prepare your site for the development, such as roads, infrastructure, and utilities. So there's a fund of 50,000 per unit, affordable unit available from the government. And lastly, a key is a low cost, stable finance paid back over a long period of time. So competitive interest rates, and the longer, I suppose, you can extend your payback loan, if it increases from 20 to 30, you reduce your monthly payback, and ultimately, again, it benefits the tenant and reduces their monthly rent. So what's the benefit? It's the provision of affordable housing, security of occupancy, stable rents, not in line with market, they're not market driven, they're in line with general inflation, and reinvestment in future projects once loan repaid. So once your loan is paid off, you still are generating revenue through rents, and you have the opportunity then to, I suppose, build additional units on site, do a complete refurb, or decide to reinvest on another project altogether. An increase in state assets because the state-owned land remains in public ownership. So what do we know? Because in the absence of policy and legislation, we don't have all the information, the local authority. We are waiting on the department to draft the legislation and have that information. But what we do know, it's targeted at moderate income households that find it difficult to access housing. So people who can't get a mortgage, they find it difficult to pay rents, and they don't qualify for social. It's based on the cost of delivering, managing, and financing the homes, and it's a discount on market rents. So just to give you an indication of an affordability gauge, this is consistent with the Rebuilding Ireland Home Loan Scheme earning levels, which would say 35% net disposable income. So that's your 35% of your take-home pay. Anything up to that is considered affordable rent. So for example, somebody on 50,000 gross as a single income would say anything under just over €1,000 would be affordable rent. And for dual income 75, 1,554. So this is kind of the range of rents we're hoping to achieve on Emmet Road based on those values. But as I said, they're just an affordability gauge we have at the moment from the department, but we hope we'll get more clarity from them once they produce the policy and legislation. So in terms of allocation, similar to all our social sites, it'll be through the housing waiting list, administered by housing allocations. Again, depending on the drafting of the policy and legislation, we wait to hear that from the Department of Housing. So as I said, the development framework plan was a comprehensive document, and it put together all the information a future design team would need. So we went out and we procured an integrated architect-led design team, and they were appointed last year. So an integrated design team, it's led by the lead architect, Buckles McAvoy, and then you've got a considerable amount of consultants and expertise involved in the project. So from anything from engineers to planners, archaeologists, and those will increase in size, the different professionals as the design develops and we move towards construction on site. We're currently at stage 1, feasibility, outline design, and planning. This will be a Part 10 planning application. So it's the local authority providing or lodging a planning application to onboard Planola. And one of the documents to accompany that is an EIAR, an Environmental Impact Assessment Report. So that's a report that looks at the significant environmental effects of the development from conception right through to delivery on site. So identifying those, looking to mitigate or reduce those remove those, and in some cases look at opportunities. So whether it's effects on assessing the traffic implications, on biodiversity, on water, on human health, aesthetics, those are the kind of things that need to be looked at, and it's an iterative process working with the design to identify and mitigate those. So in terms of delivery strategy, we're providing the site DCC, procuring a contractor, and going to onboard Penola with a planning application. The funding for the social, our usual 4-stage approval process with the department, and the cost rental to the European Investment Bank. Just coming to the end here now. In terms of next steps, lodge steps will be design development, so we continue with that. We lodge our planning application. Next step will be receiving then our planning approval. You'd follow through with your detailed design, your tender for the contractor, which could happen simultaneously. Nextly, you would appoint your contractor, commence construction, project completion, and handover. So just finish up here and give you an indicative project timeline as we are now. So in terms of design development, we're in that process, and we'll continue to Q3 2021 when we plan to lodge our planning application. Once the planning application goes to the board, you're looking at a minimum of 6 months. So we can't anticipate the actual time frame to when we would hope to receive approval, everything being straightforward. And so assuming we do get out in 6 months, we would be heading into detailed design and tendering for a contractor next year, with the possibility of being able to start on site at the end of 2022. That's me. Thank you very much.